Welcome to Links and Locks, Action Network's golf betting podcast presented by Bet365. I'm your host, Andy Lack, and I will be joined alongside Action Golf contributor Tony Sartori for these Best Bets episodes. And just like Jason and Ben have done the last couple of years, Tony and I will play 18 holes today, giving our 18 favorite picks for this week's tour event, the Cognizant Classic from PGA National. Before we dive into this week's episode, a reminder that the Links and Locks podcast is presented by Bet365. Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. That's why you get more boosts with them than with anyone else. Every day, they power up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more. Bet365 boosts specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays, and they don't stop there. Keep an eye out for their biggest and best odds with the incredible Super Boost. Check out the boost and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and present in Arizona, Colorado, Iowa, Louisiana, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, or 18 and older in Kentucky. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms, conditions, and restrictions apply. Okay, Tony, we are on the first tee here for our Cognizant Classic Best Bets. Get us started.
Absolutely. So kind of looking at it from a definitely different angle than I was last week in Mexico, where I was big on kind of putting last week. But this week, it's, for me at least, I think it's going to be all about approach play and ability to hit the greens. I don't think it's going to be, of course, I don't think it's going to play that difficult. And I think it's a pretty straightforward course in the sense of, like, if you hit your greens and avoid the water that's seemingly everywhere, you're going to score well and you're going to be in contention. And so that brings me to Eric Cole, who's going to be the first outright winner I target this week. He's 30-1 at Bet365. So, I mean, once you get past Rory on this odds board, it really opens up. And I think Cole is not only one of the best golfers in this field already at such a young age, but, like, if you're going to give me a guy who I think it has one of the better chances in this field to win at 30-1, I'm going to take it every time. I mean, he's been hitting greens this year at north of a 70% clip, so that part of his game is there. He's been absolutely dialed in since the fall. He's got 5 top 10 finishes over his past 12 tournaments. He only missed the cut once over that entire span. And I mean, this sounds simple, but he finished runner-up here last year. And considering that his game has only improved since then, I think it's absolutely worth a shot at 30-1 to target Eric Cole. So that's what I'm going to start us off with.
Love that. I'm going to stick in the outright enhanced win market. This is available at Bet365 and go with Adam Svensson at 55-1. Adam Svensson is a guy I have targeted a lot this year. My numbers continue to be a lot higher than market on him. That finally started to pay dividends for us in his last start when he finished 10th at Riviera, gaining strokes in all 3 tee to green categories and gaining strokes in both ball striking categories on a really tough golf course that emphasizes ball striking and middle iron play. Honda Classic, Cognizant Classic, I should say, PGA National. That's a tournament where you have to do a lot of the same things, right? This is where the elite ball strikers kind of come to eat. This is a golf course because if the water separates elite tee to green play out from middling tee to green play. And Adam Svensson also has a 9th place finish here in the past as well. So the combination of the recent form showing us that he can do it at Riviera, and now traveling back to a golf course that is going to emphasize a lot of that similar ball striking and a course that he's played well in the past. I'm going to go with Adam Svensson at 55-1.
Yeah, I'm glad we're very much on the same page of, like, the profile of golfer that we're going to be attacking this week. And you talked about recent form, and I talked about Eric Cole's recent form. So that brings me to my next outright guy, and that's JT Poston. He's another guy who's been just incredible in terms of, like, such a high floor. He's only missed 1 cut over his past 15 tournaments. He has 8 top 10 finishes over that stretch. He just keeps knocking on the door of a win. I think in this field, again, it's not a weak field, but once you get past Rory, it really opens up. And so just considering that recent form, I think he's worth a shot at 30-1, same number as Cole. There's 2 reasons that Poston has been playing so well: his putting and his approach play. So you don't really have to be a stellar putter to succeed here, but you do have to be a good approach player to succeed here. And that is where I think Poston will take advantage. He's gained strokes on the approach in 13 of his past 14 tournaments. So, I mean, until the wheels kind of fall off with that iron play, I'm going to keep backing Poston in some sort of fashion as we keep moving forward.
Love that. I'm going to go into a little bit of a different market. I'm going to start us off in the finishing position market with a top 10 at Bet365 on Daniel Berger plus 375. I know this is one of his first starts coming back from injury, which is why I didn't go with him in the outright market. I'm not quite sure if he's ready to win just yet. It feels very shades of Will Zalatoris a couple weeks ago at Riviera, where he shows us some signs of life and then he returns to a golf course that he loves and has had a tremendous amount of success at in the past. In Zalatoris' case, that was Riviera. In Berger's case, it is PGA National. He has back-to-back top 5 finishes here. He loves this place. He loves Bermuda, Southeast, water heavy, middle iron play. Driving accuracy courses in general. One of the highest correlated courses to PGA National is also TPC Southwind, which is another southeastern Bermuda course with a ton of water where you have to be accurate off the tee and hit a bunch of middle irons. Berger has multiple wins there. He's first in this field in strokes gained total in Florida over the last 3 years. You want to play him on Bermuda. I don't know if he's ready just quite yet to win, but this feels like a slam dunk in terms of he showed us some signs of life. He's clearly healthy again, and now he returns to a course that is a perfect fit for his game.
Absolutely. And I'm going to keep us in the finishing positions market. And I'm going to target Steven Jaeger, top 5, which is 9-1 at Bet365. I'm shocked that the number is this. I mean, I know top 5 is a hard kind of grouping to fall into, but 9-1 for a guy who keep coming back to high floor, right? Steven Jaeger might have one of the highest floors in this entire field. He has not missed a cut since last April. That's 22 straight tournaments where he's played over the weekend. He's particularly dialed in right now. He just finished 3rd in Mexico last week. He also finished 3rd at the Farmers Insurance Open a month prior to that. That was only 2 tournaments ago for him. And finally he finished 14th here last year. And so he's got recent form, solid play here last year, and he's in much better form now than he was at this time last year when he finished 14th here. He's got 2 top 5 finishes over his past 3 tournaments, so at 9-1, I think Jaeger is definitely worth a shot at that number.
I'm going to stick with finishing position. I'm going to stick with the top 10 market and go with Sepp Straka at 5-1 to finish in the top 10. That just felt like a great number for me on a former champion that has obviously played PGA National well in the past. One of the reasons why Sepp Straka, I think, succeeds so much at a golf course like this is because he is one of the most accurate drivers of the ball in this field. He's also a great middle iron player as well, and he has had a tremendous amount of success on Bermuda. He's played a lot of great golf in the Southeast before. He's played well at the Sanderson Farms. He obviously has a success at PGA National. He's played some quietly okay golf this year, but the ball striking is trending right back in the right direction after his performance at Riviera. So I think Sepp Straka at 5-1 has a very good chance to finish in the top 10 this week, a golf course that he has continually showed really fits his eye from tee to green, and he's had some great putting performances here as well.
Well, I'm going to keep this next pick for us very short because I'm also targeting Sepp Straka, first round leader at 66-1.
Nice.
There's not really much I can build off it. You pretty much hit every item on the checkbox I was also looking for. But again, he's a former champion at this course, 66-1. Anyone can lead after Thursday. I have, like I always do when we do these first round leader markets on this show, I have not yet locked it in for sure. I want to wait to see the tee times that come out tomorrow or on Tuesday, excuse me. But I mean, assuming he's just not like the last group out on the day, I'm going to target Sepp Straka, first round leader at 66-1. Keep it nice and short. You hit it right on the nose with your with him in the top 10.
I'm going to go a little off the grid here and follow up your first round leader with a couple first round leader plays I have as well. And then we can kind of return to the finishing market at the end. But just to stay in the first round leader market, I'm going with Chris Kirk at 50-1. Now I know you mentioned the Sepp Straka 66-1 number. That is a wild number to me as well. I was shocked to find these higher numbers on players like Kirk and Straka. These are actually oddly enough, non-coincidentally, we did not talk about this before, but you've got the last two former champions of this event, coming in at really high numbers just to get off to a really good start. Once again, one of the things I look at a lot for the first round leader market is not just round one scoring, but round one scoring on these types of golf courses, right? So I looked at round one scoring on Bermuda golf course. I looked at round one scoring on harder golf course, round one scoring when you get a little bit of wind, round one scoring when you're on a course where there's a lot of water. Chris Kirk rated out very highly in a lot of these round one metrics. I think at 50 to 1 on a course that we already know he's had a tremendous amount of success at. That just feels like a very must bet when you're giving us 50 to 1 on Chris Kirk.
Absolutely. And I will keep us in the first round leader market as well. And there's a guy who I targeted him first round leader back at the Phoenix Open. If I remember, I could be misremembering. If I remember correctly, he was just a few shots off the lead after Thursday. But Ben On, 40 to 1, he's 40 to 1 to be the first round leader. Again, like I always say when we do these, I'm waiting for the tee times. But this is also a guy where he's just like, he's so good, but he has yet to win on tour. So I just trust him in this market so much more than I do at the outright market, at least right now. I trust him way more to get out to a hot start on a Thursday than I do to battle out on like a grueling Sunday. And so at 40 to 1, then I really like Ben On. He's another high floor guy, 11 straight made cuts, 4 finishes inside the top 4. So like, he's scoring well. He's fared well here. He's finished inside the top 5 twice. And again, it's such a long number for a guy who is, I would argue that Ben On's a top 10 golfer in this field. So 41 worth a shot for him to lead after Thursday, assuming that he's not, again, like the last guy teeing off for the day.
I love that. Huge fan of Benny on this week in all markets. I'm going to go with one more first round leader play. This one's a little bit more of a long shot. I'm going to go with Jhonattan Vegas, 100 to 1 first round leader. This was a guy that we talked about a little bit on last week's show. And he showed us some signs of life. He ended up making the cut, finishing 60th. A lot of that was due to a disastrous Sunday, but he still gained over 3 strokes on approach. Vegas has now gained over 3 strokes on approach in back-to-back starts. So we know that the irons are firing right now. That high finish that we saw out of him on Sunday really came due to a couple blow-up holes. He actually played some really solid golf over the first 3 rounds of that tournament. And when he got himself in trouble on Sunday, it was mainly off the tee. The iron still looked great for Vegas. And he's played well at the Honda Classic before. I mentioned some of the reasons why I was on Kirk first round leader. Vegas is another guy that typically gets off to a hot start. He's played really well at tougher golf courses, getting off to a hot start at tougher golf courses like PGA National in the past. So at 100 to 1, I think for a player of that caliber that's shown us he can get out and go low many times in the past with trending irons, I'm going to take a flyer on Vegas this week at 100 to 1.
I love it. And then, so I'm going to return us back to the finishing positions market. I'm going to target Erik Van Rooyen. Top 10 is plus 650 at Bet365. Just another one where I think the number is just a tad too long for this market. He was excellent last week in Mexico. An 8th place finish. He continues to ride that momentum from his win at the Worldwide Technology Championship. He maybe has not had the best performances between the Worldwide Technology and the Mexico, but seems like last week at the Mexico Open, he kind of trained his game back around to how he played at the Worldwide Technology Championship. And again, if you got to be an approach player here, and he is one of the best approach players in this entire field. He ranks 14th on tour this year in greens and regulation percentage, and he's gained strokes on the approach in each of his past 5 tournaments. So if those irons just keep saying those irons well, I think he can absolutely be in contention. And top 10 at plus 650, I feel like it's a very good number to target Van Rooyen.
Love that one. Yeah. Speaking of approach play, I am going to go with who my number suggests remains one of the best middle iron players in this field. Not quite sure that I totally trust his putter, so I'm going to go with the top 20 market for him. I think he could easily ball strike his way into a top 20, even as a negative putter. I'm going to go with Lucas Glover, who is plus 330 right now on Bet365 to finish top 20. I talked about that Memphis connection a little bit at TPC Southwind with Daniel Berger, another water-heavy southeastern Bermuda golf course that really emphasizes accuracy off the tee and middle iron play. Lucas Glover is your defending champion at TPC Southwind. The irons look pretty good even this year as well in his last couple of starts. at Riviera, at the Century in Hawaii. So I know the finishes haven't been that great for Glover this year, but that's baked into the number. That's why you're getting value. Now he travels to a golf course that is going to emphasize his elite middle iron play even further. A lot of those shakier middle iron players are going to get in a lot more trouble this week with all of the water hazards. That should leave the pathway open for Glover, and he has played well at this golf course on the past, which should not be a surprise whatsoever. So I think you want to play Glover on these water-heavy Southeastern Bermuda golf courses, and even if you don't trust his putter, I feel pretty confident that we're getting a great top 20 number in him at plus 330.
Absolutely. And I'm going to keep us in that market and around that price. I'm going to go after Akshay Bhatia, top 20 at plus 280 at Bet365. So the reason we're catching plus 280 here is because especially recently, he's turning into like this boomer bust player. But when he doesn't miss the cut, he's finishing inside the top 20. I'm like, that's not hyperbole. He's made the cut in 5 of his past 8 tournaments. 4 of those 5 made cuts result in top 20 finishes. So either he misses the cut and we throw away this bet by Saturday, or he makes it. And then if he does make it, then he's probably scoring pretty well, that seemed to be how he's been playing this season so far. And then finally, like Van Rooyen, Bhatia he's one of the best players in his field in hitting greens. He ranks 20th on tour in greens and regulation percentage. I think this course is going to set up nicely for him as long as he kind of avoids the disaster holes that's kind of plagued his bad performances. But I think especially in a field where it's a decent field, but it's not that powerful. I think this could be one of those boom weeks for Bhatia for sure.
Love that. Very bullish on his talent long term. I'm going to stick in the top 20 market. One more top 20 for me before I get a little more risky with some lesser known players. But I'm going to go with, I thought this was a really, really appealing number on a guy who's playing some great golf, but I'm going to go with Brandon Wu plus 450 in the top 20 market. That just felt like a big number for me on a guy that is coming off a 13th place finish in Mexico, where he gained strokes in all 4 major categories. Now he returns to a golf course that he finished 14th out last year, gaining over 9 strokes ball striking. So Wu is I actually played high school golf with him. I think he's a great player. I expect him to do some majorly big things on the PGA Tour, especially in the next couple of weeks. He's playing great right now, and he returns to a golf course that really seemed to fit his eye from tee to green last year. So I'm going to go with Brandon Wu in the top 20 market at plus 450.
That's funny. The same thing happened last week. I forgot who the golfer was last week, but this week Brandon Wu was like my first guy or the last guy off my list. He just failed to make my bets, but I love Brandon Wu this week as well. But I'm gonna go to the top 30 market and I'm gonna target Carson Young. If I remember correctly, I think you were on him last week.
Yeah.
But top 30 plus 260 at Bet365. I mentioned earlier that Van Rooyen finished 8th in Mexico last week. One of the guys that tied with him at 8th was Carson Young. He played tremendous last week. He now has 4 top 30 finishes over his past 10 tournaments. And yeah, I mean, that's 40% clip that he's hitting this at, but that's why we're getting the number at plus 260, which I think is beneficial in a field where it's not like that crazy talented. He also finished 29th here last season, so he's already proven he can finish inside this number at this course. And then finally, he ranks 27th on tour this season in greens and regulation percentage. If Carson Young keeps hitting greens, he's going to keep getting these high placements. And I think at plus 260, it's worth taking a shot on him to finish top 30.
I'm going to go with the top 30 market as well. We've got 2 more. I've got one in the top 30 and one in the top 40. Both guys that are not getting a lot of love in the markets, but I actually think that they are going to be able to completely outperform their finishing position, and you can get them at great odds. Like this player that I'm about to talk about is 3-1 just to finish in the top 30 when he has finished top 30 in both of his starts at PGA National. And I am talking about Dylan Wu, like I mentioned, plus 300 at Bet365 in the top 30 market. He has a 10th and a 30th in 2 appearances at PGA National. He is also coming off a 24th at the Mexico Open, where the ball striking looked good, the putting looked good. Dylan Wu has just been playing some quietly really strong golf this year, and he returns to a golf course that seems to really fit his eye from tee to green, and he's also putted out really well too. He's gained over 5 strokes putting in both of his appearances at PGA National. So just to finish in the top 30 at 3-1, I thought Dylan Wu was an incredibly appetizing bet this week.
I like it. And just like you from our final 2 picks, my final pick is going to be in the top 40 market. And I'm going to go after Mark Hubbard. Of course, I went after him outright last week, so it's a bit of a drop. But he's plus 115 to finish in the top 40, which is a great number. And last week, the outright ended up being a terrible play because of the weekend, but he was in, I believe, 8th entering Saturday. Hubbard had a good start to the week. It all kind of fell apart over the weekend, but that's not going to deter me from taking him top 40. I mean, he didn't crack top 40 in Mexico because of that poor weekend. But there's a guy that finished 4th at Pebble Beach and 20th at the Farmers Insurance Open. Those are 2 tournaments that he's facing competition much stiffer than he's going to face this week. And he's also had success at this course. He has 2 top 15 finishes over his past 4 appearances. So, I mean, the number's not huge here. It's plus 115. It's near kind of those even odds. But, I mean, I think you have such a room for error to finish top 40 in this field. I think Hubbard is definitely one of the top 40 golfers in this field.
I love that. I'm going to join you in the top 40 market for our final bet, which is Andrew Novak plus 210 for top 40. I thought that was a ridiculous number on a guy who has finished 8th in back-to-back starts. I mean, what more does Novak have to do to get some more respect? It's not even just the finishes, it's the way that he's been finishing 8th, right? He is not even luck boxing himself with a super hot putter. This guy's gained over 5 strokes on approach and back-to-back starts, and this is a golf course that, as you've mentioned and we've talked about on podcast, is going to emphasize approach even more so than what we saw last week in Mexico. So I thought Andrew Novak at plus 210 just to finish in the top 40 was pretty downright disrespectful. And even if the irons regress a little bit, I still think he's a pretty safe bet to make the cut and give a top 40 a run at 2-1. So Andrew Novak plus 210 in the top 40 market will finish us up this week. And that will do it for our best bets episode for the Cognizant Classic. Before we get out of here, a final reminder that the Links and Locks podcast is presented by Bet365. Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. That's why you get more boosts with them than with anyone else. Every day, they power up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more. Bet365 boosts specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays, and they don't stop there. Keep an eye out for their biggest and best odds with the incredible Super Boost. Check out the boost and see why. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and present in Arizona, Colorado, Iowa, Louisiana, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, or 18 and older in Kentucky. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms, conditions, and restrictions apply. As a reminder, our action experts, Spencer Aguiar and Nick Bretwish, return with host Roberto Arguello tomorrow for the Cognizant Classic betting preview right here on the Legs and Locks podcast. So for Tony Sartori, I'm your host, Andy Lack, and we will see you back here next week on the Links and Locks podcast presented by Bet365.